Hey you guys, Laura here, and today I'm going to be going through 5 exercises, core exercises, to help you strengthen your core and also help to reduce and eliminate back pain. If you're new to my channel, I'm Laura. I'm a certified Pilates instructor and personal trainer. And if you're someone that likes mini workouts, fitness tips, injury prevention tips, injury recovery type of content, go ahead and hit subscribe and ring the bell so that you can get notifications for when I drop new videos. And this is an accompanying video to a blog that I wrote. You can find it down in the description below, in where I talked about abs versus core exercises, the difference between your abdominals and what actually consists of your core. So if you want to read a little bit more about the differences of those, go ahead and hit up the blog because I dive deep into that. Here I strictly am going to be going over the 5 exercises that I mentioned in that blog. We are going over a dead bug, a bridge, a chest lift, a side kick, and a plank. So we'll start on your back. Grab a mat if you want it. I'm going to be doing it on my carpet over here, no mat necessary, and start on your back with me. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is going over a dead bug. So the dead bug is going to activate your what's called your transverse abdominis, your lowest abdominals, and also start to help you stabilize your pelvis and also your obliques as they're knitting in and together. So a lot of times when people think of their abs, they think of just their six-pack abs, and your core really comprises of so much more than that. So I really encourage you to read the blog that I mentioned earlier. Your hands are going to come down by your sides. Lift your legs up into tabletop. So I lift mine up one at a time. And as you have your legs into tabletop, you want to just be mindful that your knees aren't super close into your chest and that they're not like super far away. You want to try to have those knees stacked right over your hips and that you feel your sacrum heavy into the earth. Those prominent hip bones are facing upwards towards the sky. From here, try to pull your belly inwards. I like to think of having like a cracker underneath my back. So I'm not smashing the cracker. Notice how that also moves my knees into me, and that actually activates into your lower back muscles, which we're trying to loosen up. So sacrum heavy, hands down by your sides. And from here, we're gonna lower one leg down at a time, reaching as much as you can without feeling any shifts in your hips, and then lift right back up, exhale. And again, inhale, reach that knee bone down, and then exhale, lift it right back in. So we think of opening through the hip joint, so creating hip extension here, space between the thigh bone and your trunk. Exhale, the lower abdominals pulls the thigh bone right back up. Your tailbone stays heavy into the mat. My head is pretty soft into the floor. I could lift it up if I wanted to. And so I'm not really bracing or death gripping with my back or with my neck here. I try to combine this movement to breath so you can exhale at your hardest part. For me, I'm going to exhale as I lift up. And as I lift up, I also want to make sure that my belly doesn't pooch up into the sky, that it actually stays pulling into me. We're going to do one more each side, and then we're going to move on to our next exercise. The other thing that I wanted to mention here while we're out of it is that shape of my knee, I'm going to demo really quickly, that shape of my knee is not changing. So it doesn't open as I go down. It stays as if I had something that I was hugging, like an apple or a lemon or a ball, behind that kneecap. So you want to think of that as you're doing your dead bugs. Next, just rocked up. We're actually going to stay laying down. Next, we're going to go into our chest lifts. Interlace your hands behind your head as if you're making a hammock. So that's really important to me. If you feel like you can't interlace your fingertips and have your elbows open, and then what I want you to do is take your knuckles right next to your temples here so we have a nice open chest. So the chest lift, or a C curl as we call it in Pilates, is different than a crunch because I don't want you to think about smashing everything together. I want you to think about lifting the chest bone towards the ceiling. My gaze is slightly upwards. If you can lift your shoulder blades up enough, then it can look downwards at your knees. But I'm actually thinking of lengthening the spine to bring the crown of my head upwards towards the ceiling, and then I lower right back down to the ground. I still have the idea of having the saltine or the cracker underneath my back, so I'm not smushing my back into the ground, because once again, that smushing that would make cracker crumbs would be engaging what's called your QL and a little bit of those back extensors as well. I also like to think about pushing my head slightly into my hands as well, so that I'm not closing the gap between my chin and my chest, that I'm actually thinking about sliding it backwards into that hammock that I've created. We'll just do a couple more here. I exhale as I lift up, and that belly deepens into my lower back here. So that's another one that you can do. I'll do an example of what I consider a crunch, or what I don't want you to do, and that would be compressing your head down into your chest, closing this gap here, and trying to really just smash everything together here. That's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for an elongation of the spine. Yes, it does work a little bit of that rectus abdominis, but also in the crunch, sometimes what happens is people do a little bit of a pelvic tilt to lift their bottom up, and I want that pelvis to stay neutral. I want it to stay heavy with those hip bones pointing to the sky. And if that's something you want to learn a little bit more about, neutral pelvis, anterior tilt, posterior tilt, let me know in the comments below, and I can definitely touch that in another video. The next thing that we're gonna do, I keep jumping the gun here, I wanna get up. We're still gonna be on our back for a bridge. Next, for our bridging, you're gonna go feet about hip width apart, hands connected to the ground. I want you to, now we are gonna tuck that pelvis, so that pelvis tucks up. I lift my hips up to the sky, and as I lift my hips up here, I'm also hugging my belly inwards towards my lower back. So I think my stomach, my intestines, kidneys, all of those organs that are here on the front side of my belly, I'm trying to give them a nice big hug as I lift my hip bones up, and then I'm slowly going to lower myself back down. Now in Pilates, we do call this a shoulder bridge. I want you to press your hands into the ground as your hip bones lift up. Now as you press your hands down, try to widen your shoulders into the floor so my arm bones get heavier, my head still stays loose as my hips try to lift up. And then lower yourself back downwards towards the ground. Instead of a hinging, think of a rolling, and that will help to loosen up your lower back as well. Whole footprints into the ground, equal pressure between big toe, pinky toe. As your hands press down, also think about ripping the floor underneath you. So my handprints are down, I pull my hands wideways without actually moving them anywhere, and that activates my triceps even more. And then lower down. So your core, like I mentioned earlier, is not just your abdominals, it's also the back of your shoulders, your back, your butt, your hips, so much going on. And the bridge, I love it because you still get to work your center, your abdominals in this hugging fashion, but now we're starting to tie in a little bit more of your butt and also the back of your arms. Next, I want you to flip over onto your side. We're gonna do the side kicks from Pilates. We're gonna add a little bit of a difference in that I want you kind of in this like modified side plank position. So elbow underneath shoulder. I still have my waist lifted up though, instead of traditionally, we would be down and connected to the floor in a traditional side kick. So I have this modified side plank. My feet are going to be slightly angled forward and in front of me. You can have your hand in front of your belly, or you can stack it on top of your hips. I want you to imagine that that shoulder is swiveling down your back. Here's that shoulder work again. Now we get to engage a little bit more of the lateral lines, your side waist, your obliques. Here we're also working what's called anti-rotation, anti-lateral flexion. So we don't actually want to be side bending into the ground. We want to be lifted up into this flat line from our crown to our pelvis here. So another way to work your core, to work your abs without actually having to do a crunch. From here, what I want you to do is I want you to lift your leg upwards towards the sky and then lower it down. Notice that I said towards the sky, but not to the sky. My foot did stay about hip width, hip height as I went up. And that's so that I can target a little bit more of my outer hip here as the leg lifts up. I also want you to take a note about your foot. How is it angled? Because if it's angled up, you're gonna be working your thigh. I want it to be parallel to the ground or even rotated inwards so that we can target that glute min and me that's on the side of your butt here. We go up and then back down. Try to push into your elbow and lift your waist off the floor. So because I am working into my arm, I'm pressing into my elbow, I do feel a little bit of a quiver on the back of my shoulder, my underarm side. Go about 10 here. All of these, you're aiming for about 10 repetitions. You can cycle through all of them. I'll write them down in the description below, and you can make a little circuit out of it. And then that's gonna target your entire core system, not just your abs. And do this regularly, maybe 3-4 times a week, and you'll start to see a huge improvement in your core strength and also in how your back is feeling. I'll leave it up to you to do the other side. We're gonna move on to the last exercise, a traditional plank. What I want you to do is come onto your hands. Your hands are gonna be set up right underneath your shoulders. And then from here, step one foot out, stand strong into that foot, and step your other foot out. Stand strong into your arms. So I don't want you hanging out into your arms here. Push as if you're at the top of your push-up. The wider your feet are, the more of a stable base your pelvis is going to have. The tighter your feet are, the more narrow base, the more challenging it is. I do like narrow though, because it does engage a little bit more of your pelvic floor, which is also part of your core. Your belly hugs in, but we want to try to keep out of a kind of like hips up position. We're really trying to create a flat back between our shoulders to our tailbone. You can hold here, work your way up to 30 seconds to a minute. But this is working your shoulders, your ribs, your armpits, your belly, diaphragm as you breathe, pelvic floor, those glutes, reach those heels away. And then you can relax your knee bones down. Everything, we're coming out of these exercises with control, not falling out of it. So like I mentioned, I do have a blog going over these exercises a little bit more in detail, and also talking a little bit more about the differences between abdominal exercises versus core exercises and why you need core exercises to help you eliminate and reduce your back pain. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Please let me know. That really helps me to gear more content like this or not like this in the future. So if you liked it, give me a thumbs up and leave a comment down in the description below. I also would love it if you could share this video to your Facebook, on your Instagram, or anyone that you know that has back pain. Back pain, I want to say the last time I was hearing statistics about it, I want to say like 86% of the population suffers from back pain. So there's so many people that could benefit from this video. If you know someone that also has back pain, go ahead and shoot this over to them. And that, I mean, everyone likes to know that they're being thought of. So, I mean, put a smile on your friend's face and say, hey, I was thinking of you and I think that this could help you out. If you're not already subscribed to my page, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And like I said, ring the bell so that you can get notifications for when I put up new videos. And if you have a conundrum in your body that you are trying to figure out and I haven't touched on it in one of my video topics, go ahead and drop it down in the comments below, or you can find me on Instagram and chat with me in the DMs. And I'd love to hear more from you, learn a little bit more about you and what you're working towards for your fitness goals. I will see you in my next video. Have a good one.